Quilting has a long, layered history, and this piece is especially rooted in cultural experience and ancestral traditions. This is Woman with Roosters by Sharon Kerry-Harlan, one of the artist's many quilted portraits. The quilt has an ochre-colored fabric as the background. A central figure with an oversized face is set within a black border. Surrounding the woman in an outer border are rectangular blocks featuring repeating images of roosters and more abstract elements, with some reminiscent of lace or doilies found in the home, florals, and wrought iron fences. Though she is known for her large-scale textiles, Kerry-Harlan also works simultaneously in other mediums that influence her textiles and quilts, such as drawing, painting, collage, photography, and mixed media.
I actually was introduced to art when I was in high school, and we were always interested in the visual and the performing arts. So I always had an interest in art, although I never really wanted to be an artist. I was more interested in being an archaeologist. So interested in going to Europe and Egypt and going on architectural digs. And then my uncle, Marion Sampler, was an artist in California. So I was always sort of involved in the art world. He did a lot of geometric types of work, and I do a lot of work that is also geometric. And then my mom was a quilter. She did not make her own patterns, but she mastered the technique. So I went from there.
Woman with Roosters is one of Kerry-Harlan's portrait works that feature a central figure surrounded by a border of elements, similar to traditional quilts. But her process is what makes her textiles unique, which begins with the fabric she uses.
There are several processes that I use. This is an example of some of the fabrics that I have rusted. So I use a chemical process that involves vinegar and salt, and I take old metal instruments and wrap them in cloth. And you can actually imprint on the fabric the designs that are on the metal pieces. And then once this is rusted, I can also dye it and I paint on it. I even put paint on it while it is rusting. So there are several processes are involved.
The rusty ochre-colored fabric is also the artist's preferred color.
I don't do a lot of color like in the portrait pieces. I'm definitely in the more earth tones, I think, in terms of the messages that I'm trying to get across. And it actually is a throwback to the fact that I liked archaeology, so cave paintings and those types of things.
In terms of meaning and context, there are personal, cultural, and historical aspects to Kerry-Harlan's work. Her ancestral African heritage is intrinsically connected to her art. African textiles and quilting are a form of storytelling and tradition, which was passed along by slaves and has persevered in African American culture as a creative medium that also shares family history and promotes community.
The roosters are a symbol of never giving up. And I think the central figure for me, being an African-American woman, is a symbol of never giving up and persistence. And I also think of it as just Mother Earth and new beginnings and the dawn of a new world when I think of the roosters and the crowing and just the beginning. I always think when I do the human face or when I'm painting it, I always look at people in crowds. I'm wondering what they think about, how they feel. I wonder if they have a face that might be familiar. Is that an ancestor's face?
The stacked adornments on the woman's neck are a nod to the traditions of numerous West African cultures where women wear neck rings. Often, it's the details that make quilts and textile works so admirable. The rust-dyed fabric is the top layer, with black fabric as the bottom layer. You can see that most of the stitching is also visible through to the back of the quilt. The entire textile is stitched, predominantly winding curves throughout the work. But the stitching at the center is especially interesting, where the swirling lines are contrasted to more geometric shapes and straight lines. Kerry-Harlan creates and emphasizes details of the figure's appearance by using patterns and stitching, as in the subtle blush on the woman's cheeks, her facial features, and the texture of the woman's hair. Kerry-Harlan's style also incorporates what she describes as jazz sensibility and syncopated hieroglyphics. She has stated that she sees her art quilts and textile collages as visual jazz improvisations. Rhythmic, jagged, playful, and curved, the compositions zag through percussive exclamations and restful spaces.
I listen to a lot of jazz music when I am working, and I can feel and see rhythms in designs and fabric when I am creating. So I can see the influences of sort of abstract ideas in jazz, and I like to translate that into the work that I am working on at the time.